3 super banned Yu-Gi-Oh cards. They're all banned, so don't get your hopes up. Pot of Greed, which is a card that allows you to draw 2 new cards and add them to your hand, is a card that is loved. Yeah, I did that meme on purpose. People often point at it for conversation. Draw 2 cards. Should this be limited? Should it be semi-limited? But I got news for you, pal. Pot of Greed isn't even broken when compared to these. Now when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, everyone that played me in real life ran banned cards in their decks. I, however, didn't. And also they would do stupid rules such as, you can't destroy Swords of Revealing Light because Swords doesn't stay on the board. They also ran Pot of Greed and other banned cards that I couldn't get my hands on. Because of this, I wanted to get myself these cards to get back at those people. And I'm not talking Victory Dragons. First on my list is Time Seal. Now if your opponent is playing pretty good, and you're doing decent to good, there will be multiple times where you could use this card and ruin the flow for your opponent. As much as people refuse to mention this, you rely on the draw phase. You need cards that allow you to add cards to your hand so you can thin out the deck, right? What's the easiest and safest way to get cards into your hand? Draw them. Let's say you were to play a form of Yu-Gi-Oh where you couldn't draw in the draw phase. It could only be done through card effects. The game would essentially encourage you to add cards to your hand through mantra effects or spells. And really, there's only so much you can sift through the deck before you hit a roadblock and can't do anything else. Tune table of contents into another contents into another contents and boom, you're out of searches. For many decks, they'd be hitting the block right at the beginning, especially if you draw into a bad hand. And with this card, it effectively stops the prime aspect of the game and allows you to continue the game at your pace. So Time Seal's effect isn't really stopping time, it's just stopping your opponent. Point is, if your timing with this card is good, you're trapping someone in with no hand or no hand worth playing. I've always questioned one thing about Graceful Charity when I was a kid. Why is it banned? It's only a +1, right? Until I realized that its effect isn't a cost, it's an effect. If you don't know the difference between cost and effect, this is it briefly. If you have a card in your hand that says, when it is discarded, X happens, and you were to use a card that said, discard 1 card, draw 1 card, the effect of the discarded monster would not go off because it is a condition to use a spell that discards the card. One way you can tell this is by having the card isolated in your hand. If you had a spell card with the effect, discard 1 card, draw 1 card, isolated in your hand, you would not be able to use it. It's not a draw 1 card and discard it, but instead if you want to use this card, you need another card to discard. So if this spell card would be isolated, it would be unplayable due to its mandatory condition. So why is this so imperative to Graceful Charity? Well, simply, if you had a Graceful Charity and used it and decided to use that discarded mantra as one of its targets to discard, the discarded mantra's effect would go off. Imagine this with Dark Worlds or Burning Abyss and you can easily see why this would spell out disaster. In addition, decks that use any sort of graveyard to its potential, which is a lot, are only benefiting from the quote-unquote cost of Graceful Charity. The third card on my list is Royal Oppression. It's one of those game-stopping cards again. This time, we'll be focusing on the differences between an inherent special summon and an effect special summon. An inherent special summon is often done through a monster that special summons itself from its built-in effect. These are things like Cyber Dragon or a Dark Armed Dragon that basically summon themselves without a clause. Yeah, I mentioned clause because you can usually tell whether a monster is doing an inherent or effect special summon if they have a semicolon or colon or if they don't. If they have a semicolon or colon, there's a catch, and that's what makes it an effect special summon. If it doesn't, it's an inherent special summon. Cards that are effect special summoners are things like Instant Fusion, Call of the Haunted, Battle Fader, Scarm, or Gores. This is important because some cards like Solemn Strike or Solemn Judgment don't stop these monsters. Judgment or Strike can stop Call of the Haunted and Instant Fusion though, but not the special summon. Meaning to stop the player from special summoning, you have to negate the card before they special summon. Now I think you know where I'm going with this analytical detour. I'm basically saying, Royal Oppression stops both inherent and effect special summons. You can negate a Battle Fader and destroy it and then continue to attack. This is because the special summon and stopping of battle phase is written to be the same effect. It's real, and it's even mentioned in card rulings. Let's say your opponent uses Dimension Fusion and you use Solemn Judgment to negate Dimension Fusion's activation. They can still attack because the activation itself was negated. Therefore, even the cost of not attacking doesn't go through since nothing resolved. However, if you negate only the effect via Royal Oppression, you would be able to stop the summon, and they wouldn't be able to attack since the cost still goes through. I mean, it's the ultimate game stopper. And once again, it's stated in the card rulings, except it's with Parallel World Fusion, which would still work if it was Dimension Fusion. So yeah, those are my 3 super banned cards. You guys got something better? Put it in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this card game analysis, be sure to like this video. I'll see you in the next one.